to the HeartStream Musings podcast, a podcast to help you on your journey of self-love. I'm your host, Lisa Mae Francisco, a self-love coach and inner child guide. In the podcast, we'll dive deep on how to heal your inner child wounds, break your relationship patterns, and liberate your truth so you can claim the relationships in life that you deserve. Thanks so much for listening. I'm super excited that you're here. Hey y'all, welcome back to the HeartStream Musings podcast. This is season 1, episode 12, the final episode of my first season. Super proud of myself for completing this season, for finishing it. Originally, it was only supposed to be 6 episodes. They were going to be released bi-weekly, but then I decided to do weekly just because I had a lot of passion around it. And I was not expecting that at all. But I'm going to take a month off to just kind of decompress and really think about what next episode or just what the next season and tone will be, and what guests I want to feature, what subjects I want to talk about, and who to collaborate with. So if you love this season, if you love any of the episodes that you've listened to, I'd really, really love a review. You can leave it on Apple Podcasts. I'm not sure if you can do it on Spotify, but you can, I'm sorry, I got so distracted. There were like all these little kids out there. Anyways, I'm not going to edit this because I just want to keep it real with y'all. I feel like there's just so much curated stuff on social media and with the websites and all of that stuff, and these like curated images of what people want their lives to be perceived as. And we never really share the truth. So I'm just going to keep that in there. But anyways, yes. So leave a review on Apple Podcasts where you can screenshot it, send it to me at my email, hello@lisamaecoaching.com. And if you send me the screenshot, I will hook you up with a free EFT session. All right. Okay. So in this episode, what I am going to be sharing about is just how the universe has supported me anytime I've wanted to take a big fucking leap. And I'm sharing this because it's been over a month since I quit my 9-to-5. If you've been following me, you know that I just quit my cushy fintech job in the Bay Area in the recession, or like the recession that keeps coming, or people keep saying that we're going to have. I feel like we're already in it. And so, you know, it was definitely a hard decision, but I think the hardest part was just being in that liminal state of should I not? And being a month into my business, being an entrepreneur, I definitely feel the highs and lows. And so this episode is really kind of for me of just affirmation, right? And so this is actually a tool that I have my clients do of just listing out all of the fucking miracles that happen in their life, especially when they feel downtrodden, if they feel like they're at a low point, if they feel like they just need some hype in their life, you know? And so for me, this is more of a verbal journal exercise that I'm doing, and I'm sharing it right here as my last episode. But, you know, if you can't keep it real, then what's the whole point anyway? And I think it just serves as a good reference point anytime you feel low, to have these reminders that things will always get better. So it's constantly about reframing your mindset. And to me, there's a lot of jargon in the coaching world of like, oh, mindset work, and also strategy and all that stuff. But mindset is just really just wearing a new pair of colored glasses, right? So just looking at life with a different lens, right? A loving lens, a positive lens, a secure lens, an affirming lens, just anything to help you get out of the mindset that you're in. And so there are different tools to do it. This is one that I love. It's all about having a miracle mindset. And for me, what I'm going to share is basically how the universe supported me anytime I wanted to take a leap. So I'm going to talk about when I first moved to New York back when I was 21. I was an ingenue, fresh out of college from San Diego State. And then I'm going to talk about when I moved to the Bay Area for my MBA. And then most recently, leaving my 9 to 5 and going all in coaching and doing it full time. All right. So let's hop to it. So back when I was 21 in university, a bunch of us, me and my classmates, I was in this program, or it was like an elective where you basically help consult small businesses and you do it at a smaller scale. And it's completely pro bono. So it's more of like, I guess, like in a way, to doing consulting, not for nonprofits, but operating as a nonprofit entity. And so instead of going to the regionals in Southern California, we said, fuck it, let's go. Because you can go to any regional space and compete. And we decided to go to New York. And it was for spring break, my senior year of college. And mind you, I had never, ever had a desire to go to New York. Like it just wasn't even on my ether. I think I wanted to stay local. I wanted to go to LA because that was a city where they had so many jobs, more than San Diego. And I thought, okay, let's just go to New York and have fun. And I just remember being there and feeling like I was such at home the minute that I just, landed. And I had this feeling of, wow, the energy is just fucking amazing, especially being in sleepy San Diego where it was just super small, very homogenous. For me, just being around so many different people, so like it was just so diverse, and people were actually uniquely celebrated for their diversity, for their uniqueness. And that's the thing that every time I do visit New York, I love just being on the subway because, oh my gosh, the way that people dress, the way that they just own who the fuck they are, it is just so it's like water for my soul that has been drenched, and it's thirsting, right? It's just thirsting for that inner truth that a lot of people exude there. And so I just remember being completely enamored of being in New York. And I made it my mission after that whole week of exploring and just being around culture and visiting different places, going to different bars, and just, I mean, it was so unlike anything that I'd ever experienced in my life before, just growing up in California. And I just thought, oh my God, I have to move here. I have to be back here at one point, and I'm going to make it my mission to move here no matter what anybody fucking tells me. And I mean, this was when we were on the heels of a recession again. Like, I swear, being a millennial, you just deal with all these recessions. It's like, oh, okay. Another one. And so I just remember coming back to San Diego and basically networking the shit out of anyone that I met who had a first degree, 20th degree connection to somebody that lived and worked in New York. I would take so many different coffee meetings, go to just like so many different networking events. And when I graduated, I wanted to visit again because I knew vacationing in New York was very, very different than actually living there, really experiencing the seasons. And being in this big city where I only knew a couple of people, I did not have many friends there. And even the people that I did know there, I didn't really hang out with them. And so I decided to bet on myself. And I just remember going back there and staying with a couple of friends and thinking, okay, is this a city that I could actually live and work in? And I just remember talking to every single person that I could that lived there. And so I basically lined up all of these coffee dates with people. I mean, literally people that I had met at the bar who worked there and said like, hey, are you hiring right now? I want to move here so bad. Can you please hire me? I was willing to do anything. I mean, when you're first out of college, you're just automatically hired as an assistant. I mean, yeah. So those are types of jobs that I was looking at. And then I just remember thinking, okay, I am going to contact this person to see if I can get an interview. And so it was pretty busy. And I lined up different recruiting interviews with people because that's what others told me. They said, okay, well, why don't you just start working with recruiting agencies and see if they can just place you to go on interviews as an assistant in any of these other, companies. And so that's what I did. And a lot of them told me, hey, they said, you're from California. Why would a company in New York want to wait for you to come out here and live here and then hire you? That creates a buffer of at least 3 months, for you to move, to settle, to find a place, blah, 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 blah. And they said, well, why don't you just even take a temp job, right? And you can figure it out. You can live on someone's couch and then be able to move here. And then I realized, oh shit, they're actually right. Why don't I just do that? And so I just remember being in New York during this time after meeting with so many different recruiting agencies and just kind of standing on the corner of West 4th and that subway exit. And I just remember I think I was on the phone with my sister and I was standing on the corner and I was literally bawling and crying about how I knew that if I did not live in New York after school, after university, that I would regret it for the rest of my life. And I wanted it so bad, even if I didn't know the how, right? Oftentimes we have this wish and desire for something, and the how of actually getting it prevents us from living out that dream. With a lot of the mental monkey mind chatter, the fear that sets in, the ego that sets in, the logic, other people's programming, conditioning, and narratives, they set in and they tell you, oh, that's a bad idea. And you end up not doing it. And then you have a midlife crisis. And then you're like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? I'm going to move. I'm going to pull geographic, all that stuff. And so I just remember crying, talking to my sister and just having this desire of no, I don't know how it's going to work, but I know I'm meant to be here. And I feel it with every single part and fiber of my being and my body. And, I was living in LA the summer summer after I graduated university. And I remember I was driving down the PCH, the highway 1, and there were no GPSs at the time. I'm totally dating myself. Yeah, there were no GPSs at the time and I got lost. And I remember asking someone next to me at a stoplight, I literally said, hey, do you know how to get to X place? And he said, I don't know. I'm not from here. I said, where are you from? And he said, New York. And I said, oh my God, what company do you work for? And mind you, both of our windows are down. We're literally, on the highway. We're driving, but we were at the stoplight. And he told me the company, and I ended up contacting him, getting his email and seeing if I could have, if there were any open positions for people that were new graduates. And so that's the type of gumption and determination and ambition that I had that, I've heard this quote before that, the universe can move mountains, but I have to bring the shovel. So as much as the universe is supporting you, you also have to do your work. You also have to do the necessary steps to get there as well. And that's the type of networking that I did. And so I just remember being able to do that with anybody. I mean, networking in the bathroom of bars that I was going to, trying to anybody that just had an experience in New York, just any first, second degree, third connection, whatever, it didn't matter. And so even though I didn't have a job lined up in New York, everything just started falling to place. So when I had visited there again the second time of really trying to understand, is this going to be a place that I want to live? And not just have the vacation vibes of like going to New York in the summer where it's super fun and hot and like everyone's in a good mood because it's not winter and all this free stuff everywhere and just amazing opportunities for connection and entertainment and community and all this amazing stuff. And I just ended up meeting so the person I was staying with, her friend was actually looking for a roommate. And I said, great, let me check the place out. And it was perfect. I kind of just, I was in the Upper West Side area. And I remember thinking it's within my budget. I don't have a job, but at least I have a place to live. And I think I'll take it. I will take it. And so I ended up going back to LA, packed all my stuff, and then I drove to the Bay Area, drove up north to Northern California. And that was when I think it was like maybe 2 weeks in between, 2 or 3 weeks in between of just living at home and making the decision to move to New York. And I proposed to my parents this plan of give me 6 months of making it New York. If I don't do this, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Just give me 6 months to do this and work and try and find a job and just let me give it a fucking shot, It's like my moonshot. and my parents were so worried. My mom had never been there because all she saw were just like Law and Order episodes, thinking that I would get killed in Central Park, all of these things. And so I had my friend come over and convince my mom that New York was safe, which she did. And they were like, okay, all right, if this is your dream, we'll support you, all of this stuff. And if it didn't work out, I could always come back home, always come back home. And, they supported me, but there were a lot of people who didn't. This was during the recession and people were just thinking, why would you go to New York? The financial industry is fucking collapsing right now. Like, that is the stupidest thing. There's so much competition out there. There are so many people without jobs. What do you like? Okay, that's just going to be a 6-month vacation for you, but we'll see you soon. And I did not care. I did not care. There's something about being an ingenue and kind of just playing off of the whole ideas of like your naivety is you just don't feel like there's any risk. I swear when you're younger, there's just no risk to doing anything. I think as you get older and you start to realize all the contingency, outcomes that can happen, you just have your tolerance for risk just goes down. At least that's just what's been my experience. And so I guess it's because you just want more in life, right? It's like when I was younger, I wasn't thinking about looking for like a long-term relationship, having kids, any of that stuff. I was just purely selfish and thinking about me, the experiences that I want to have. And mind you, I actually didn't even study abroad. And so that was something that was very, very interesting of, okay, I am trying to have my own experience of what this looks like. And I just want to be like moving to New York is my version of being abroad. And so what ended up happening was, I moved out there. I moved out there in October and I just remember feeling so elated, so excited that I was there because in my heart of hearts, I knew that I was meant to be there and I knew that I was following my dream and I was not going to let anybody deter me from that. And I knew that it was going to happen even if I didn't know the how. And so if people think you're crazy, if people think what you're doing is just not sound, you just have to go with your gut and just do it anyway, because you can never go wrong in betting on yourself, right? And even if other people might not understand you, they will come around, right? Later on. And so you have to really be your own advocate and trust in yourself when other people don't. And fast forward, I ended up getting my first job out of college. I think it was 2 weeks after arriving. And I was working at this amazing company, this big entertainment company. And that was during the recession when no jobs were available. And so I just want to remind you that if you trust in yourself, you can never go wrong. And I just truly felt that I was supported by the universe during this time because I had that desire so strongly in my heart. And I was completely following my gut, completely following my intuition, and doing the things that I intuitively knew what to do in order to make that dream happen. And so, if you find yourself in that space, just trust your heart. You can never go wrong at all. Now, had that experience gone another way, maybe I wouldn't be talking about it on this episode. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But that it's just always stuck with me. And I love telling that story and I love reminding myself. And I say to myself all the time, like, girl, remember when you fucking moved to New York when you were 21 and you didn't have anything to your name. You were like, I just have a desire to go there. I know I'm meant to be there. And that is fucking that. And you did. You did. I mean, it was like finding a lover that I was so deeply enamored by, and I had to be around it and in it. And I ended up staying in New York for a very long time, all throughout my 20s, with little stints here and there in LA, like having a 1-year stint in LA. But I was there for about a decade. And it really just shaped me and my formative years. And it really reminds me of if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. And I've done a lot of really hard shit in my life. And New York, the city, has always been one of my greatest teachers. And I've always been very fortunate to build a community out there and grow there and really have that shape me into the woman I am today. I think it definitely was an energetic match because I just have that New Yorker fire, that spirit, that hustle. Like, how can I fit everything into the shortest amount of time possible? And it just really spoke to the intellectual side in me. And so, even though I did experience really hard times, I did really blossom there. And I'm so grateful for my experience. And I always look back at it fondly with such sweetness. And so I hope that little snippet served you. And so it brings me to after being in New York, right? And so moving on to the next story. So after being in New York, I eventually, I got sick of New York, right? Like as a lover, I was like, all right, New York, I think I've had my relationship with you. It's good. And it was great throughout all of my 20s. And then I was in my early 30s and it just, for me, the magic sort of dissipated and I wanted something more calm and quiet. And for me, I really wanted to move back to California. I wanted to be around nature a lot. I didn't want to have it be this big ordeal of having to go on a hike and take the train to get to nature or take the train to go to the beach. Granted, you have to, get in your car and go hiking and go, all of that stuff, go to the beach. But for whatever reason, I just wasn't speaking to me anymore. And then everything that I experienced in New York, I did. I didn't have any desire to experience more and be there. And so it was this subtle shift in this desire to want something different. And so I ended up just applying to schools, MBA schools only in California. And I remember thinking, okay, well, if I apply to these schools and I don't want to take out any student loans, knowing that it's 6 figures, how am I going to do that? And the MBA journey was really hard on its own. Oh my gosh. That was literally a 2 fucking year journey. I remember at the time being really really kind of just disgruntled with my career, knowing that there was this glass ceiling and that I couldn't make more than what I was making in New York. And it was really, really disheartening. And so I thought, well, what do other people do? They get their graduate degrees, you know? They go to grad school and they make more money. They either come back as a consultant or work in finance or whatever, or they work as marketer in, consumer packaged goods companies. And so for me, I just remember thinking, okay, so maybe that's what I have to do to make more money. And so that's what I ended up doing. And that's why I ended up deciding to go to business school, because I wanted to make more money. And I remember just, oh my gosh, doing my GMAT, like, 'cause you have to take the GMAT and the GRE at the time. And I did horrible on the GMATs. And I remember doing tutoring, taking courses, all of that stuff. And so I ended up doing the GRE because it was an equal mix of quantitative, qualitative, like English. And that was my strong suit. And I remember taking these tests and how difficult it was for me. I felt like I was running or preparing for a marathon, because I would go to class during the week, and then on certain weekends, I would practice for 3 hours, taking a full exam, trying to mimic the actual environment of what it would be like. And I had so much, I had test trauma, phobia. I never really thought that I was a smart kid. And so anytime I had these standardized testings, I would freeze. So I never ever thought that I was smart because I didn't get high enough grades or numbers or anything like that. It wasn't until I actually, until I was older, that I realized how smart I actually am with my inquisitive and curious nature and the way I think. But according to metrics, that would just not be the case on paper. But anyways, and so I just remember really feeling so disheartened, taking the test so many fucking times and just being over it. Like, I spent so much money on preparation, money and time. And it was a lot. It was a lot for 2 years. And then also preparation for the actual applications of going into school and all of that stuff. And it was just so much. And I said, okay, I'm ready to stop this period of my life. I'm ready to end that chapter, and I don't want to do MBA preparation anymore. And so I just applied, and whatever schools I got into. And the number one school that I wanted to get into, I got waitlisted. I was so pissed. My quant skills or my quant score was just so low. And so I remember thinking, okay, I have to network. I have to go to these schools networking events that are locally based in New York. I have to go meet, people that are transplanted from that school or alumni that are now based in New York. And so that's what I did. I just networked the shit out of, meeting alumni from that school, and also retaking a finance course to show that I was very serious and all of these things. I was jumping through hoops. It was basically like hazing to be a part of this fraternity just to get into this school. And mind you, the reason why they want you to get good metrics and come from a prestigious company or background and have your goals align with their goals is because that is used as marketing material to get other students to want to apply to their school. So, the rankings, right? So the higher score you have in your MBA, like GRE, GMAT scores, that is factored into the ranking of which school it ranks in the top 10. And then also making sure that you have a desire to get a job in an industry that's actually easy to get a job in. So for example, if the school is really known for consulting, it like makes sense if you want to get into consulting, because then the ROI is higher as opposed to someone who wants to get into fashion or something, right? And so there's metrics that you have to align yourself to make yourself a good candidate in order for them to actually, include that in their ranking for other people to want to apply. And so there's all these things that go into it. So I didn't get into my number one school. I was actually waitlisted. I was super upset, but there was another school that wasn't even on my radar, and it was in the Bay Area. And they told me, okay, well, your scores aren't high enough to go in our full-time program, but you can go into our part-time program. And I thought, what the F? Well, I'm not doing the GRE again. Fuck that. I'm sorry. That was way long and I need like more than a month to study for that again. And if I tried to, I'd probably be lower score than the highest score that I had. And so I said, I guess I'm just going to go part-time then. And we're thinking about that desire to not have to take out student loans, but actually do this type of, financial package where I was able to have a full-time job and use that money to pay for my tuition. Now, the tuition for MBA programs are 6 figures. That was freaking crazy for me. I thought, oh my gosh, how is that even going to happen? And so I remember I was talking to my girlfriend and I told her, I don't know what I'm going to do. I really, really don't know what I'm going to do. And she said, well, maybe you can apply again to different schools next year. Maybe you can look up financial aid. And I just did not want to put my life on hold and be in New York for another year. I just said, no, fuck that. I don't know the how, but I'm just going to fucking take a leap of faith and go. And so luckily, my parents, they live in the Bay Area. I was able to live with them. So rent was covered. Amazing. But I did not have a job. And I just remember thinking, okay, I'm going to have to go really hard at looking for jobs so I can pay my tuition and not take out any student loans because I just did not want to be in fucking debt. Like, no, that just was not an option. And so I remember moving and I was talking to the admissions office for the school in the Bay Area. And I said to them, hey, if I take this leap and I don't have a job and I'm going full time, like what does that look like? Is there any way that I can get financial aid or help or anything? And so they were able to take $1,000 for the first year off of every single, quarter payment that I was doing. And so I thought, okay, great. That's helping me. And so I had to build my case. I had to send all these different requirements and send a letter, proposal, all of that stuff of this financial hardship that I have of how I'm actually betting on the school, even if I have no job, knowing and thinking that, okay, once I move, I will get that job. And then things just started lining up, right? So similar to my story in New York, the universe just started conspiring and working alongside with me and sort of co-creating this foundation for myself to really thrive there. And so I was able to get the $1,000 off of tuition just by asking, right? I mean, you can play out all the scenarios in your head of how things will go, but until you ask and actually experience it, there's just no point in thinking about the future and just future tripping on it. Just try and live in the present moment. And this is like medicine I need to hear for myself. But anyways, so that happened. And then I remember just going on LinkedIn and thinking, wow, I didn't know that almost every single job requires you to have tech experience because the biggest sector here in the Bay Area, obviously no brainer, is tech. And I thought, oh man, can I find a job in tech even if I didn't have tech experience? I don't even know. And so I was able to go online and I saw a communications position open because that's what, I did in New York. I was an internal communications manager. And I saw that a friend of mine from my alma mater, San Diego State, was at this fintech company. And I said, hey, I saw this job open for internal comms. Can you refer me? And he did. And then the recruiter ended up calling me and contacting me within that week. And so it was super quick. And we had the interview, and it's the first time I ever had to do a fucking case study. The interviews for tech companies is pretty intense. Just the different case studies, the panels, the amount of people you have to meet, the questions you have to answer. I mean, it was just a lot. I mean, honestly, the process deterred me from looking for any other jobs because it was just so much. It's almost just as hard as getting into business school. But anyways, and so I ended up knowing, okay, I have to make a certain amount in order to pay for my tuition. And I was already my first quarter in, and I was interviewing, and I just remember going on other different interviews and saying no to them and really wanting it to be an amazing environment, a cultural fit, because I knew from my previous jobs in New York what I didn't want. And so I just remember thinking, okay, I'm not going to settle for less. I'm going to listen to my gut. I'm going to listen to my intuition. I'm going to prepare these questions that tell me about the culture, that tell me about the leadership style. And this isn't going to be about me, tuning into my ego of wanting a job, but also, is this the right fit for me? Even though I need this job to pay for my tuition, but thinking about my well-being. Am I going to be happy here? Because I don't want it to just be another one-year job or whatever, or a short-term job, and then just moving on to something else. Like, I really wanted to have a foundation and learn from the company, make sure that they had really good education benefits. They really invested in their clients and their employees. And I just wanted to make sure that it was a right fit for both parties, and that they paid really amazing. And so I turned on a lot of jobs while I was looking, and kind of in that, not desperation, but I needed one. I needed one to pay off my tuition. And so I ended up going on this interview for this fintech company, doing the case study and all of that stuff. And they actually said I was too junior for the job. I thought, fuck, then why'd you bring me in? But it turns out that their leveling is just much higher than it is at other companies. And the leveling that I was at from New York, it was overfluffed. Let's just say that. And so I said, okay, but, even though I didn't fit the requirements, the woman who was a hiring manager loved me so much that she created a job for me. Yeah. She created a job for me. The universe was like, all right, girl, you showed up, blah, blah, blah. You studied really hard for your case study. And I was even working with a career coach at the time to help me prepare and just, be my hype person. And that happened. The hiring manager created a role for me, and I was paid enough to cover my tuition for the next 3 years that I was in business school. And that is something that just kind of came out of the ether. I never even knew that was going to happen. And I was just so blessed. And in all honesty, it was, probably one of the best corporate companies I've worked at, because they just really value their employees, and the benefits are amazing and all of that good stuff. And I was just thinking, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And, I grew so much in that role. And it just really affirms and validates that when you are meant to be somewhere in the world, that doors will just open for you. I mean, that was never in my purview of, okay, I'm going to move back to the Bay Area for my MBA. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to apply for jobs, and then they're going to create a fucking job for me because I'm amazing. What? How does that even happen? So that's what I do. I remind myself, I'm like, hey girl, remember when people just create, that woman just created a job for you? Just because she liked you and she knew you'd be a cultural fit. You had a desire to learn, and she knew that you were valuable. And so I always remember that even though I might not know the how, that it's so important to leave room and flexibility for creativity and just allowing the universe to do its thing. And it's so funny because literally today, I pulled a tarot card. I love pulling tarot cards, not necessarily because I told the future for other people, but for me, it's just really an understanding of what's going on in my inner realm of intelligence and connecting with the cosmos and higher consciousness and all that stuff. And so the more that I do it, the more that I develop this relationship with it. And today I actually pulled the Two of Pentacles because I've been really feeling in my masculinity of systems, processes, and hustling and all of this stuff, and not allowing for pleasure, creativity, and play and joy to come into my life. And the Two of Pentacles is really just about the balance and being flexible and adaptable to these energies within yourself to represent the outer self. And so yeah, I mean, it was just wild. But anyways, so just know that even if you don't know what the how is going to be, even if you have this finite vision of what you want your life to be, allow for flexibility and creativity and adaptability for the universe to come in and co-create with you instead of dictating, right? Let it be a relationship, let it be a partnership, and allow yourself to be pleasantly delighted and surprised at the bountiful experiences that you'll have in abundance. And so that brings me to my final story of how and when I quit my job. And, I quit it. I think April 7 was my last day. And, I'm almost over a month out. And that was definitely a hard decision. It was a hard decision because, one, I had gotten my MBA. And I was thinking, is this something that I want to do? I don't know. But what I really want to do is just talk about the experience of that and going back to the beginning, because like everyone else during COVID, now that the frills were gone from working in internal communications, I really had to ask myself, is this a job that I love doing day in and day out? And it was a job where I was a woman behind the leader, meaning I would often write what they would say. I would tell them what to say, do all their Slack messages, do their email messages. And it was more tactical work. And I am an artist. I love to express myself through words, through written scripture. And writing for someone else just didn't feel good anymore, right? Hiding behind someone else and not wanting to be seen. I mean, it was a way for me to play into my fears of not wanting to be seen and not having attention. And this desire just came out really strongly. And it happened during COVID because I really had to think about, is this the type of work that I love doing? And the answer was no. And so I ended up exploring different options. And, if you go back to my different episodes, I've always been a very spiritual person. And it started when I was in New York in 2010. And I remember this was in 2020. Yeah. So like maybe, a year into COVID. My colleague, she ended up going and getting her life coaching certification. And I just remember thinking, oh, well, she and I have very similar interests. I wonder what the hell that's all about. And I had worked with coaches before, but it was more like career coaches, right? And like consulting coaches on projects that I was doing for work. And the only spiritual coach I knew at the time was Gabby Bernstein. And I thought, I don't know. I knew I wanted to be like her, but I didn't know how to be like her. And so I ended up talking to my colleague, asking her all about the coaching certification program. And she said that it was absolutely amazing. I should do it, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, okay, sure, I'll do it. And so I ended up doing it. And I met so many amazing people. And I remember as we were going through the frameworks of how to coach people that I was completely floored, because a lot of the frameworks that we were learning, I was doing inherently with people. Like I would coach people on the side just for fun because I was working with so many different mentors and teachers that I would just share with them what I was learning and how to apply it to their problems. And like many people in the healing and wellness and coaching consulting space, a lot of us are empathic and just really good at solving problems for people. And for me, I just didn't know that I could have a job, doing it. And so I ended up taking the course. It felt really innate doing these frameworks for different people on my own. And I thought, okay, great. So I ended up getting my certification, didn't do anything with it because I was distracted in my personal life, and work had just got in the way. And then slowly I thought, okay, well, if I want to explore something different. I've been in my role for over 3 years at my corporate job. What other skill sets can I gain to just stay fresh and, learn different parts about the company? And I thought, okay, maybe I will try an opportunity doing something more consulting, in-house consulting, strategic, like biz ops. And so I applied for that. And then it turns out I ended up getting COVID and they ended up going with an outside hire. So I never got to interview. And I thought, okay, so great. Okay. So that was kind of taken away from me. And so this desire of, revisiting coaching again, even though it wasn't even on the ether, even though I got my certification, came back. And I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be the master of my own schedule. And that's actually one of the reasons, in addition to wanting to make more money for my MBA, I wanted to get into consulting. So eventually I could consult on my own and, just be an entrepreneur. And so this desire to want to have my own schedule, want to work on the projects that I want to do, want to write in my own voice, not someone else's voice and tone, came back really, really strongly. And, I think this was at a time where everybody, I felt like, was just becoming a coach. They were becoming digital nomads. They were living wherever. They were on the road. And I wanted a job where I didn't have to be tethered to a desk. I wanted a job where I didn't have to wake up because I had a meeting that someone put on my calendar. I wanted to wake up because it was something that I put on my calendar, right? That to me is just so invaluable. And that's probably something that you can't even put a price on to me, because it's something that I just truly prioritize and find so much value in. And I just remember thinking, okay, well, I think maybe I'll just give this coaching thing a shot. And so because I knew, and this was in February 2022. Yeah. And because I knew that I wanted to get serious about coaching, I started to do free coaching sessions with people. And so I was able to work with 5 different clients, and I would talk to them all the time, and I would, hone my skill on what does it mean to coach, people, knowing that it is an energetic exchange, and how to hold space, and how to identify the blocks, and how to push people, how to give assignments, all of that stuff, and really just embody what it means to be a coach, and also identify my niche of who do I want to help, who do I want to work with. And I really, really set the tone and the strategy and the foundation for building up that skill set before I decided to launch. And so I did it in baby steps of, launching. And so I ended up going and I ended up hiring a business coach. I said, okay, I have no idea what to do. I literally thought that once you showed up on Instagram that you would just have fucking clients. I didn't even know that that's not the case. It's just maybe people are showing up, but you don't even know on the back end, behind the scenes, if they actually have any clients, if they're actually, profitable in their business. I think there's a lot of misleading information, especially when people try and sell you different coaching programs of how to be a coach or get into the coaching industry, because they'll kind of lure you in with 5-figure, 10-figure months. And in reality, what people don't often tell you is that it takes time. It takes time because people have to know you, first of all. And it takes time to get to know someone. It takes time to like them. And then it takes time to trust them with the information that they are sharing. It takes people, it's like a long buying cycle. And so, for me, I just thought, okay, I'm going to hire a business coach. And so we worked together. And so I really got to work on what it is, my niche is, how to show up online, how to even write copy. And I remember I was so awkward at writing copy in social media, and just basically studying a lot of other people, how they show up. invest in a lot of like different programs, all of that stuff, all of the things. And I just thought, okay, like I'm learning so much and I'm growing and expanding and it's uncomfortable as fuck. And I have to really kind of get used to this new way of being, this new way of being. And I just, had to show up differently. And, I decided to get serious about it. I started doing it more. I started talking to people about it. And I think for me, I always had this desire to quit and be an entrepreneur and do my coaching full time. But it was really hard because I was in that liminal space of not knowing, could I do it? Should I do it? And when I fast forward, it was really, really hard. And I remember trying to show up for work, but it was really hard to do it because my heart was in somewhere else. It's kind of like being in a relationship, knowing that you're just not energetically there, but still sleeping in the same bed, even though you want to break up with them, right? And so it's like reliving Groundhog's Day of being in this chapter that you are ready to move on from, but not all of the logistics are in place. Maybe the new place that you're looking for to move into just isn't there yet. And so you have to sleep in the old bed. And so that was definitely hard, of having to have this like feigned persona, right? This feigned engagement. And so it was hard because I wanted something so bad, but I didn't know when it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen. And I'll talk about this in another episode because I actually feel my energy winding down. I feel like I've been talking so much. Like my computer screen is black right now. So I don't even know how long this episode is. But anyway, thank you for being on this journey if you've been tuning in this long. And so fast forward, I just kept pushing back my date of when I was going to quit. And so I go on this retreat back in March 2023. And I thought it was going to be super fun. And I just had this desire of, okay, I think I'm going to quit. Maybe I'll quit next week. Maybe I'll do that. But I'm going to ask the universe for a sign if it's for me. And I just remember going in there, and both of the women who were facilitating the retreats, they were Asian. They were first-gen Asian American women. And that really spoke to me because I did not see too many Asian women that were in the health and wellness and coaching space. And it just felt so good to see people like me who were out here doing this full time, right? Especially when, parents can have a mouthful of, you not being in corporate. I know my parents did when I quit. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh. And then I realized that majority of the people that were at the retreat, they were also entrepreneurs. And the person who I was rooming with, she was an entrepreneur and she was never working in corporate. And I thought, what? Girl, are you serious? How do you make money? Da, 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 da. And it just felt so good to know that that was a possibility for me. They were just all expanders in my life of really showing me that I could have this life if I wanted to. And it was, on the first night, it was about purging and embodying the Kali Ma goddess energy of having her purify and burn everything but the truth in you. And so there again, I have that lesson of connecting to my inner truth and just embodying that, what my heart really, really, truly desires of what it wants to be in this world. How do I want to show up and express myself, not behind someone who is a leader at a company, but be the own leader of my life and lead others in the coaching and the offering, the gifts that I do and I offer to this world. And so I left that retreat and I just felt like I walked through this initiation, and it was almost like this ritual just for me. I felt like the world literally initiated me into becoming an entrepreneur. And when I came back, I ended up quitting, I think that following Wednesday. And I had no desire. I mean, yeah, I did, but I got like fire signal sign warnings, flashes of like, no, girl, you have everything. You truly, truly have everything. And so it's just a good reminder, because I remember back in January of 2023, I really wanted to embody the magician archetype from the tarot. And I am going to read to you an excerpt about the magician archetype. And it's just a reflection of all of the experience that I shared, right? Of being in New York, getting my MBA, moving to the Bay Area, and taking that leap of faith of leaving my 9 to 5 over a month ago. And so this is from the Taschen book, The Library of Esoterica. It's the tarot book. Such a beautiful book. FYI, if you love art, if you love history, if you love tarot and mysticism, this is the fucking book for you. It's literally my favorite book because it just has all of that stuff. I mean, images, beautiful images from different artists of how they depict tarot, which is an ancient way of showing archetypes, really. And Carl Jung, the psychologist, he used tarot as a way to really mirror the inner world and landscape and subconscious and meanings that we bring to ourselves when we use it. And so this is an excerpt from that book about the magician archetype. So you are living in sync with the creative forces of the universe, and it seems right now you can manifest anything you put your mind to. Magician has all of the elements at their fingertips: the wand of fire, the pentacle of earth, the sword of air, and the cup of water. Even better, air is in the magician's left hand and earth is in the magician's right hand. The magician can draw spirit down from the heavens and bring it into fruition here in the material world. There are many images of the upward left hand and downright right hand across cultures, including the Sufi whirling dervish gesture used during their meditation and motion. It's a sign of balance, to be sure, but it is more than that. It implies a person is but a channel for the energy of the universe, connecting the high with the low, the subtle with the gross, the celestial with the chthonic. Other words, the magician can make anything happen because they know they're part of a much greater circuitry, not creating from a place of ego. And if you're working from a place of spirit, of being in service to something larger than yourself, then the possibilities are endless, but you must get out of your own way and put yourself aside. Let magic flow through you directly from spirit. You are an artist of life and a servant of the great work, not its master. When you collaborate with higher forces, the outcome may be different than you expect, but it will always be fucking divine. And whew, that just felt so good to read again because I really needed it today. And it's just a reminder, it just kind of like activated something in me of yes, yes, yes. Especially right now, I feel like I'm so in my ego, but just knowing that there is an opportunity to co-create, right? Co-create with the universe and just really be in that mindset of allowing things to unfold and leaving the how up to someone else that isn't yourself. And even if you don't know how anything is going to work out, but honestly, trusting that it will, right? Just trusting that it will. And so many magic things have unfolded since then, but I'll save that. I would love to save all of the things that happened from like being an entrepreneur full time for maybe a year in review. That could be awesome. But my wish for you is just that you have the courage to explore your heart and just doggedly pursue them amongst the disappointment of others while in the ultimate pursuit of yourself. And even if I said this again, or I said this before, even if people think you're crazy, even if your inner truth might not make sense to other people, just know that because you're living in your truth, because you are communing with the divine, because you are totally embodying what's in your heart's desire, that you can never go wrong. Never go wrong. And it's really interesting because I'm doing facilitation in wild woman circles. That was like another synchronous event in itself, but that goes for that's another episode. But I remember before when the wild woman archetype first got into my ether, I thought it was just a bunch of like naked women. I didn't understand it. And to me, it's just a much more multifaceted meaning. You know, a lot of people say the wild woman archetype means going back to your inherent relationship with nature. It's primal. But to me, it's beyond that at like the subtle energetic level. It means going back to your truth, going back to the places and those parts of you that were here before they were muted by other people. So interesting. I was working with a client. We were talking about being muted when we were younger. And I equated that to how we perpetuate that cycle of continuing to mute ourselves. And that is a form of emotional self-mutilation. And so when you deny, when you repress the things that you want to do that speak to your heart, and you let the ego and you let the fear come in to dissuade you from doing what you want to do, you corrode and undermine your ability to self-trust. And a lot of clients come to me and they say, I just am so afraid to be myself. I don't know if I can trust in the decisions I'm making. And that's how it gets perpetuated when we deny ourselves the very thing that we know to be true in our heart, when we know what's intuitive to us. And so even if you have this desire, you have this dream, you don't know what the how is because you're letting the conditioning, the program of other people tell you how it's going to be, telling you like, I don't know, they're like you're psychic and they're going to tell you the future. Fuck that. That is just noise. It is noise. And the most invaluable skill you can have is learning to bet on yourself and learning to trust that you have everything you need to make whatever you want happen because you are co-creating with the universe. And so I'm going to leave it right here. But one of the quotes that helped me and solidified and affirmed and validated the journey that I was going on of being a full-time entrepreneur and just taking the leap from security, especially when people are like, we're in another recession, girl. Like, why are you quitting your cushy fintech job? But I'm going to leave you with this quote. It's by Joseph Campbell. And it just speaks to me so deeply. It resonates with my heart so deeply. And I hope it resonates with you. So if what you are following, however, is your own true adventure, if it is something appropriate to your deep spiritual need or readiness, then magical guides will appear to help you. If you say, everyone's going on this trip this year and I'm going to do it too, then no guides will appear. Your adventure has to be coming right out of your own interior. If you are ready for it, then doors will open where there were no doors before and where there would not be doors for anyone else. And you must have the courage. It's the call to adventure, which means there is no security and no rules. That felt so good. So I will end it there. Thank you so much for tuning in, listening to my long ass story about all of my experiences. This is so much fun. Real talk, this was the first episode where I didn't really have an outline. Normally I do. And I was like, I just want to jam. I want to talk, let spirit commune, use me as a vessel to speak through me. And so let me know what you think. I'd really, really love to know what you think. Truly hope this serves you. If you want to work with me, one-on-one for my coaching to help you heal your inner child wounds, release your false self, and create a cosmic home for yourself and others by connecting to your inner truth, check out my website. I have all of my offerings there. I'd love to support you. It's one of my favorite things to do, is just help people level up and expand and embody who the fuck they were meant to be, right? Unmute themselves, release their false selves, take down those masks, all of that. So anyways, the best way to stay connected is to subscribe to my newsletter. You do get a free inner child worksheet if you do. In my newsletter, I offer weekly self-love tips, tools, and offerings, all that good stuff. So thanks again for listening. But before I sign off, here's my question for you today. So what are you doing to fill your self-love cup and connect to the little you? I hope you enjoyed season 1, and I will be back later, and I will catch you all next time. Bye.